Guys, we need to monetize this podcast somehow. I'm spending money on so much stupid crap. Have you guys seen these the Gen Zers what they're doing? They're doing these uh digital character NPC things where they react to emojis being thrown at them. Maybe we need to start doing that. They're making thousands a day. It's like, hamburger. I love roses. Thank you. I don't know, but there's probably a market for us too. I mean, someone gonna pay three brown guys to act that way. Surely. I
Isn't
said
the
this.
opposite of what AI is supposed to do? Like, wasn't the idea of AI and all this like Ready One Player to become like this computerized thing to sell or to do things that we didn't want to do, and now people are just acting this out? The hell?
I guess so. I mean, there's just like, but I gotta address the elephant in the room, and I'm gonna bring it up right away because we gotta start the episode this way. Week one, both you guys had a hot take about Barbie, and here we are, Sunday night of Barbenheimer weekend. They did 155 million domestically, 180 million internationally. Their break even is like 400 million, something like that. Do you guys both agree to take an L on your hot take that it was a dud of a marketing strategy from Barbie?
Look, I'll call it. I'll call it right. Look, I'll take the L. I got to give Barbie and Mattel props that that movie is way more than I thought it would be. My Instagram feeds and my stories and everybody's at this damn movie this weekend, and I'm like, why is nobody watching Oppenheimer? Like that's the only movie I want to watch, but no, Barbie really hit the nail. The numbers show it. There's no arguing there. They're gonna break even by next week, and kudos to Mattel and Barbie. It's Barbie's world, and we're just living in it.
True that.
I'll take the L, but I'm gonna hold my ground and put an asterisk on it and say it was a win for all movies. I think the theaters are back. I feel like Barbenheimer. If there's anything that it proved that people want movie theaters, they want to enjoy the box office. I'm not going to give Barbie the full credit of the amazing weekend that the entire box office saw. I think Oppenheimer it's exceeding its expectations as did Barbie. So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. So I'm not going to take the full L, even though it's a win for everybody else.
Samir always has a caveat. Samir always has a caveat. It can never be wrong.
But thanks to the movie theater. But the movie. I mean, Barbie, if it was released on streaming, it would have done the same, right? I don't know if it did. The numbers are there because it was forced to be, given out on theaters. But Oppenheimer had to be seen in theaters. There's something about Barbie that has to be seen in theater besides making the money. So, is it really people wanting to go back to the movies, or is it I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's psychological, honestly, because if you look at it from a perspective of Barbie was the biggest movie launching this weekend, I don't think they would have done 155 million. But because there was two big movies being launched, I think it forced people to say, no, I need to make plans to watch one or the other and pick a side. And I think it's it was that probably helped both movies get a better opening weekend than we realized. I mean, hence the numbers. Look at it. I mean, it's the biggest showing this year for any movie. So it's pretty amazing. Look, so we have a lot to discuss today. We're on episode 4. My wife still has not subscribed. But we have our deep dives, Samir, and the Brown Ramsey himself, Salim. He gets that title because he's a great cook. I've heard and I've seen. But to all our Pioneer subscribers, I tip my hat. Thank you.
Let's get started.
Mad.
Who's gone mad?
Mad Men.
You're mad.
The man's mad. Mad Men.
I'm mad.
I'll take us into our first dud or stud for the week. I want to talk about Taco Tuesday. The taco chain Taco John, if you haven't heard of them, relatively small shop out of Wyoming, about 300 locations in the Midwest, owns the trademark to Taco Tuesday, that phrase. So in May, Taco Bell, if you remember, had partnered with LeBron James and published a campaign to liberate the Taco Tuesday trademark. It caught a ton of media attention a petition went viral for it, and the creativity of the ad was done very well. It leveraged LeBron James's what he started feeling like he owned and made famous the catchphrase Taco Tuesday, but Taco John was not having it until last week, where Taco John finally responded by abandoning its registration for Taco Tuesday, making it effectively public domain. But they put a little spin on it by calling out Taco Bell to match their donation to a nonprofit called CORE with a $100 per location pledge. I think it's a very interesting move. Instead of kind of just saying we give up, waving the white flag, take it, I'm done, I'm not going to fight you in the courts for this. They instead wanted to kind of put a little jab back out to Taco Bell. So I'd ask you guys, is this a stud or dud move for Taco John to take on the behemoth Taco Bell and trying to lure them into responding with a pledge?
All right. Well, I'm gonna take a dud on this for Taco John. I'm always for the little guy. You know, David versus Goliath. I'm always going David. But Taco John, you could have done a lot more with this opportunity. I'm telling you. As you know, the marketer in me, I'm thinking that you could have asked for a commercial from Taco Bell, saying that I want to be in a commercial with LeBron and close this chapter of making this phrase public domain. You guys could have done a decision style segment where LeBron is literally being handed the public domain Taco Tuesday. That would have been so beautiful. Use those dollars towards that. There's always going to be charity opportunities and stuff, but you're retiring, Taco John. Should be your send off, right? Get LeBron to give you a nice big hug. Let the world see who Taco John is, and I think it was a waste of an opportunity. So total dud, in my opinion.
Look, I didn't know when I saw the ads, I didn't know who it belonged to. I still barely didn't know until this announcement finally came out, right? So look, I think it's a stud move. You got to get awareness somehow. And his awareness idea was, hey, let me do something good in the world with this, right? I haven't done much. Look, clearly he did not capitalize on Taco Tuesday on his own before while he had the trademark, and he probably didn't even know he had that value until the ads came out from Taco Bell. So now got me to Google where this place is. I want to go try it. Got to go find one in Texas. Clearly there's not one here yet. But I think it's a stud move. Look, you're developing your brand presence, you're developing your brand recognition, and saying, hey, look, we are a good company doing good things. And look, yes, he's retiring. He's announced step prior to coming out, but I think it's a stud move. It gives you the exposure, it gives you the name acquaintance with Taco Bell and Taco Tuesday, and then you get to go claim that, hey, look, we were the original company that owned Taco Tuesday. So you got that regardless of how you said it. So I think it's a stud move, and I think you'll see people driving revenue up for Taco John.
I love both takes. I think I'm gonna lean a little bit more towards Adeel as it being a dud. I feel like they let it go a little bit too easily. I think, not sure if they felt that public pressure. Not sure if people that petition really made a difference. I think that it was a good attempt at trying to become a part of a larger cultural conversation, but it just wasn't enough. I don't think it caught on. I think for those of you listening, if I was the first person to introduce you to Taco John, that this gesture didn't work, right? I think it's pretty fair to say that, especially when you're talking about LeBron James, Taco Bell, Taco Tuesday. I shouldn't be the one who's introducing you to Taco John if their gesture didn't make any waves in the media. So I think it could have been a lot more than what it was.
Thank you, Samir, for taking my side on that. It really means a lot. You're on the side of truth. Okay, you should know that. I got the next dud and stud thing to debate, guys. So I don't know if you guys saw that viral TikTok of the girl who was tragically shot, but she survived. So, that's the silver lining. She survived, but she attests the survival to something pretty surprising. She says that her Skims bodysuit, yes, Skims from Kim Kardashian, saved her life. And here's how. She says the compression from the bodysuit helped her from it prevented bleed out, right? Whatever. I'm doing a horrible job describing this, but needless to say, this is some some pretty cool press for the lovely Kim Kardashian. But we're not talking about that particular incident. What we are talking about is how Skims is suddenly in the race for an IPO. So they got valued at $4 billion. They raised $270 million. And this is all in hopes of eventually going IPO. 2 weeks prior, they made announcements that they're going to be opening brick and mortar stores. Huge news. And she's already mastered digital. We all know that. She's the queen of social media. But she's clearly making a big bet on becoming an established brand. So would love to hear from you guys. Is Skims a dud of a brand, or are they the real deal? Truly a stud, and they're
Look, I think this is a very high evaluation. It's like 15x multiple of EBITDA, which Skims is looking at. And if I look at Skims' competitor, look, I don't know anybody that buys Skims. Clearly, I don't buy Skims. Apparently, they get in menswear, so we'll figure that out in a second. But I compare to Spanx, right? Just because Spanx was $1.2 billion valuation today, that's a 10x multiple over EBITDA. Look, is brick and mortar going to help? How much of this is sitting on Kim's foundational work and what Kim's valuation of herself is? And if tomorrow she spins this off and she IPOs it and she's no longer there and takes her money and goes home, is it still going to have the same valuation as it does? Right? The evaluation here is in comparison to an early evaluation of what Nike was back in the days when they first got evaluated. Right? So this is a hard ask for Skims to get evaluated at $4 billion. I don't know what's backing her, but probably an ex-husband Yeezy back there somewhere. But I think it's a dud. Dud on Skims for me, boys.
I'm really impressed with what Skims has been able to do. I think it's a complete stud of a brand. I love seeing the upside to what this brand can become. When we talk about planning to sell men's clothing, physical locations, they're playing the right cards that are meaningful to their audiences. It's inclusive sizes and colors. They're bringing in older models and using more diverse influencers that are beyond just Kim Kardashian, by the way, and they're focusing on comfort. They're putting a lot of promise behind their product, and from what I've heard from consumers of this brand, the product is fantastic, and now they're diversifying their retail channel portfolio. Like, I think this is the formula to succeed. When we talk about $500 million in sales last year, on pace to hit $750 million this year. It's a 4-year-old brand, guys. Like, this is still new. And the amount of things that they're trying, the ways that they're expanding their product innovation, their retail channels, their expanding audiences, their brand, it feels meaningful. And I think they're always going to have a little bit of that connection to Spanx, right? I feel like there's always going to be that this or that in comparison to them. But I think this is a really good success story when product innovation, celebrity, investors, and consumer preferences all come together. I think this is a really great pairing of what consumers want to see with product that is delivering on what consumers want and need. And they're getting a celebrity who happens to be the major push behind it up until this point, who has had really strong success in fashion and is a very relatable celebrity despite what her status in class has been. I feel like there is a lot that is working for them. So I think it's a stud. I think Skims valuation, I think it's early, but I feel like it's really a testament to show their upside. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see what they could do.
Junior, I got to say something. You thinking Skims could become a men's line is atrocious. The idea of me putting on something that says Skims just does not work for me. It's the same reason why I don't wear Fabletics. As someone gifted me some Fabletics one time, and I swear I told someone that it's Fila. I didn't want to say the word Fabletics. The brand just will never go for men, so I had to put that out there. If they are probably weighing in the fact that it is not a good money raising market right now, and that this is very heavy on dependent on Kim, right? This probably is the reason why she's opening the physical brick and mortars. And I think she will draw some early traffic. I could actually imagine if I was just to close my eyes and picture what a Skims store would look like. I don't imagine it just being one store. I could see it being more of a complex of different, like all the sisters brands all tied together, right? So you could definitely see Kylie Cosmetics store attached to it. I can definitely see Good American Jeans nearby. You can definitely see some other celebrities try to tie into it. With maybe Justin Bieber wanting to do his Drew line attached to it. I could totally see it becoming its own shopping experience, because they have that power. They sway so much behavior. But the flip side is, as soon as she's going to get her big payday, as soon as the IPO hits, she's going to peace out, because she knows that if the only way for it to be successful is with her attached to it, she's not going to stick around and try to run the company. That's not her thing. She's going to move on to the next thing. And maybe that's Tom Brady. I don't know. But, she's going to move on. And
Tom Brady?
yeah, dude, you didn't hear the rumors?
That's what topic for next week, it sounds like.
The next week?
Next week, we're taking on Entertainment Tonight. We're going to give you guys the tea on that. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm headed to Vegas in a couple of weeks. I've been seeing this unusual structure, this UFO looking thing being built along the strip for a few years now. I have to go to Vegas a couple times a year for a trade show. And every time I'm like, okay, it's almost there. It's almost there. It's like, you never know when it's actually going to close up top. But it's called the MSG Sphere. It's the largest spherical structure in the world with the highest resolution wrap around with LED screens, both on the outside and inside. So, I mean, you can just imagine the experience. It's going to be a 4D experience that the attendees will get. $2.3 billion in construction costs. And it was brought to us by James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. U2 has already announced that they're going to be the first to perform there, but unfortunately, not many other performers are biting. The naming rights are also available for about $50 million. The question here is, with as expensive as a building this is, and the opportunity that's also available in terms of advertising and whatnot, is this a dud or stud?
Look, this is huge, right? I only seen the videos of this. I'll be there next month. I'm sure I'll check it out. This thing is huge. It is advertising gold, I want to say. So it's really like you could make it do anything, say anything. And if you've been to Vegas, you've been to New York, you've been to all these places, companies love a big screen. But dude, the cost of this is just sheer insane, right? It costs double. They spent double what it was costing. It talks. There's articles talking about how it's about $100 million to run this thing on a regular basis. They got to sell some ridiculous amount of tickets every year. I think it was somewhere near the like 11 million tickets a year for them to even make any money on this thing. Given that, plus advertising fees, look, it's supposed to be the star of F1. This is kind of what their peak was. Is like, hey, this is going to be the rotunda around F1. I have tickets in that same center. No flex there. But I think it's a hard ass. There's so many venues in Vegas. I go to Vegas all the time. There's so many venues there. The cost of doing something here and it being gimmicky is too easy. At the same time, you can't go in and use this, venue without using its all the functions around it, right? The whole 4D experience, this huge curved LED. If your production team can't do this, it's going to cost your production team 10x more to even do it. So now, I'm going to go build this. I'm going to go, host my event or concert or show or whatever it is at this venue. Not only is that going to be a big thing for me, but now I've got to go figure out how to produce something like 4 times better than what Taylor Swift produced in her tour recently, right? So that's a production cost that they have to bring on themselves. I don't think it's going to work out. I think this is going to be up for sale real fast at a significant lower number than $2 billion. So look out for that sale coming very, very soon to each one of you guys.
I'm going to look at it from an ad agency perspective and trying to see the value in this for brands. This is a dream creative canvas. But to design a visual ad product that can be this sophisticated with these types of rich technology capabilities of the Sphere, it's incredible. I think this reminds me of those 3D billboards that we've seen in Japan, China, and South Korea, where you can make these large static outdoor advertising billboards into these like hyper realistic visuals that are very visually appealing. They're capturing attention from people walking by. It's about pushing the limits on the creative bounds in advertising. And I think over time, we're going to see how much traffic and eyes the Sphere can really capture. But the kinds of things that you can create as a brand will find its way on social media. And that's when you're going to get those extended impressions, even beyond those that are in Vegas. And I think we have to think about this as not just being a digital out of home piece, right? Like this isn't just in your traditional marketing and advertising arsenal. Like this is a stunt. Like when you are a brand and you participate in advertising on this Sphere, you're going to try to treat this as a brand stunt. And that is about extending what you can get out of the creation and the production of this type of experience. I think it's a stud move to build something like this for brands to participate in, because all brands want unique canvases where they can be creative. And I think that's where the dollars are going to start rolling in for them. Venue, ticketing, like events aside, right? Like all the things that they're going to have to do to keep this appealing for visitors it's going to be a challenge. But I think starting from where they are right now of making this so visually appealing, I think it's getting brands really excited. I think that you're going to start seeing a lot of interest from really powerful, high spending brands to want to do something really unique and creative with this type of canvas. So I think it's a good move. I'm excited to see what they can create with it.
I'd mentioned that there's not many performers or A-list performers, getting in line to perform at this place. The number of people that could fit inside is 18,600. It's not that much, right? And so when you're talking about getting a Taylor Swift, right, who's selling out in a row, 120,000 people each night, you're clearly not going to get her here. And they're paying U2 $10 million to perform for the first night here. That's like, I mean, to break even on that, what are the ticket costs going to be, right? And so even getting people out there, and so I think there will be a status symbol with it. I could see fights happening in there for sure, like some of the boxing matches and some. I could definitely see that happening in there. That would be really cool. I do love the engineering side of it. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to that. I think it's super unique, and for Dubai, these kind of things pop up every week, it seems like. But for us Americans, this is pretty cool. That we'll get to have something like this in Vegas now. So, I think both of you guys have very compelling takes. Salim, I do agree that there may be kind of a marketing moment of, wow, we overspent, right? Or we expected this to be a lot more. But then from Samir's perspective, this is a beautiful canvas. I mean, some of the things that they've projected already on it for the NBA Summer League, it legit looks like a floating basketball. It's just beautiful, right? And now there's 24-hour feeds of that people have on TikTok and different websites of just like the Sphere, right? So it does have some gimmick to it, but it is beautiful. I think it's a spectacle of human, of our engineering efforts and creative efforts. And I think the whole Salim, to your point, how much it's going to cost to actually design for this Sphere. Once they figure out a couple times the templates that need to happen, the creatives it'll just become second nature, right?
It's like you also look at Vegas it's a very kind of let's call it a mafia world over there. You talk about fights, you talk about other organizations that are already like concerts and stuff. These are all, owned by these MGMs and these Caesars of the world, right? So they're gonna have to compete with that to say, hey, look, why is it not, why would I go to have a fight at the Sphere when I don't own the property? I can't sell my tickets, I can't sell my rooms, I can't sell my restaurants and bars and alcohol and casinos simultaneously, right? So I think there's going to be a challenge for them to go make that money because they've got to compete with these guys that kind of own Vegas Strip to the full extent, the MGMs and the Caesars of the world.
Yeah, well, the naming rights are available, right? So Caesars could be like, here's 50 mil, call it the Caesars Globe. right? So
Or on Mad Men Pod.
oh man,
Hey, how's that? How's that? Cyborg thing working out?
Yeah. How many roses we got?
so many roses. Smells so good. Anyways, so let's go move on to our deep dive. I did want to change it up a little bit on everyone. Instead of a campaign, I'm going to be talking about a person. So I really want to. It's really the timing of this is going to make sense later. So I did want to talk about the OG of propaganda. It's a man by the name of Edward Bernays. Many of you may know him, some may not. But let me kind of paint a picture for you. So it's this genius dude who's learned a whole lot about the human brain from his uncle Freud, and first name being Sigmund. Yeah, like Sigmund Freud. So he took all the things that Uncle Siggy taught him and said, "Let me see how we can manipulate the human mind to take action on things." Right. So he applied a lot of those psychoanalysis concepts and created what we know as modern day propaganda. So the first one is from the tobacco industry. So the tobacco industry actually hired Edward Bernays to figure out a way to get female smokers on board, right? So it's a big no-no. Ladies do not smoke. This is during the suffrage movement. Um, so what Edward Bernays did was he thought of a concept of saying, how do we make this into a symbol of liberation? And so he changed, instead of calling them cigarettes, he had the media refer to them as torches of freedom. And during these suffrage marches, he had hired women to walk alongside everyone and casually pull out cigarettes and smoke in front of the media. The media would capture this, post it in the local newspaper, and suddenly that was a symbol of empowerment for women. The last thing, and probably what he's best known for, is his impact on the traditional American breakfast. So he was hired by a major pork producer who wanted to boost bacon sales. And of course, he said challenge accepted. And back in the day, bacon and eggs was not really a thing for breakfast. In fact, people rarely ate breakfast. They would eat leftovers from the night before. But he saw the opportunity of actually pairing those two together, and he got a few doctors on board to say that's actually the ideal breakfast to have every morning. And lo and behold, it skyrocketed bacon sales. So these methods, we kind of still see today, and it's really important. The reason why we're going through this history lesson is because I've personally been seeing a lot of talking heads of different political candidates who are trying to, win the spot in the White House, and we're hearing about why they are the best fit for it and whatnot. Propaganda comes in many forms, and we don't really know the long-term effects of joining a movement until much later. Clearly, cigarettes were never good, but at some point, Americans thought this was something liberating. Clearly, bacon is not the healthiest option for fried bacon is not the healthiest option for breakfast. But at some point, Americans thought, hey, this is the healthiest option. And we do know the long-term effects of war. And at many points in our history, there's been millions of Americans that have supported war efforts, and it's all been with very clever marketing. So on this show, we spend a lot of time appreciating marketing, appreciating campaigns, but I think it's also important to look at the effects of these campaigns and how sometimes you're not on the right side of history, but there's money involved, and that's the reason why. And there's interest involved, and that's the reason why we don't realize those effects until much later. So would love to hear y'all's takes on what you guys think of these propaganda campaigns and what we're going to be experiencing over the next year.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love the history lesson back into it. I think there's a lot to learn about marketing and advertising that's rooted in this behavioral psychology. And there's so many cases of this, of where brands people, propaganda, how they create different ways of consumers to behave a certain type of way or to think a type of way or believe certain things, utilizing the words and messages of their choice. I think one of the things that I learned as you were kind of going through that was that just because you have your right or you have a fact on your side, it doesn't mean that they'll choose you, right? Like I think the pork example of bacon universally being known as not healthy, cigarettes universally known as not being healthy, but still being chosen, just because you are right or healthier or you have some sort of supporting fact or a legal claim, it still doesn't mean that they'll choose you. There's a lot that has to go into actually changing the way consumers think and behave. And I love all these examples. Definitely a classic example of an advertising legend, if you will, in Edward Bernays.
No, I think, I mean, look, marketing is all about being able to tell customers' perception and customer stories, and propaganda kind of falls right into it, right? So I think it's the idea of, hey, how can we, and he does a good example, and you did a very good example of talking about how propaganda is doing that, right? It doesn't matter what the message is. There's an audience for it. There's a way to manipulate the audience and tell them your story and get them emotionally attached. And I think we live in a different age. And people are now, this goes straight with publications, right now, right? There's a whole idea around what the news media is doing. Twitter's big about it.
Let's get into the brands to watch. My pick for this week is Sonesta, or Hotel Sonesta, the 86-year-old hospitality brand that many people really haven't heard of. They had released a new ad series this year that is a really interesting move out of their brand playbook, blunt honesty. They enlisted Judy Greer in their ad. For those of you who don't know who she is or recognize the name, that's exactly why Sonesta chose her. Judy Greer is one of the most recognizable actors in the industry. She's been on Arrested Development, 13 going on 30. She's been in the Marvel movies, Planet of the Apes, Big Bang Theory, but she isn't a household name. And Sonesta really played into that because Sonesta is not a household name in hotels. It doesn't command the hotel name recognition that you see from other major hotel chains in the world. And the brand is being completely honest about it. It's embracing the lack of consumer awareness. The ad is called Famous But Nameless, embracing the fact that you may all not know the Sonesta Hotel brand, but they're playing it into an advantage as hospitality's best kept secret. A brand that has been around forever, yet you may not know its name. And because at Sonesta, it's not about the name, it's about the experience, the product. And for Judy Greer's case, the performance. It's compared to Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt. It's the name that drives your expectation of the experience. But with Sonesta, the name doesn't mean much to you yet, but the experience is going to be something that you'll remember. I love it when a talent strategy lines up so well to your brand position, and you're being honest about your brand position. I love it even more when you choose a celebrity who aligns with what your brand is today, not what you desire the brand to be. And I think really embracing their position in the market, despite having the heritage and the history, they know that they're not one of the big dogs. They know it's not a brand name that you're going to recognize. And rather than trying to pretend that you would know or play the same game as a lot of the big hotel chains do, they went complete opposite and completely embraced the fact that you may not know them, you may not heard of them, but when you see it and you experience it, you're going to love it. And lining up Judy Greer to play that role, to be that person in those ads, I think it was super disruptive. I think it was a great storytelling. And it was just a really appreciative way of embracing a brand being really honest about what consumers think.
I feel bad for Judy Greer, and it's like, imagine the pitch to her is like, hey, like, people know you, but they don't really know you. And so we're dealing with the same thing, Judy. Like, people know our hotel, but they don't really know our hotel. So maybe we should work together. But I think it's genius. Total genius move.
Nah, I agree. I think that's right on. I think it's a great campaign. I've seen the ad, but also just the lineup of the talent. I think just when that happens, it's just chemistry at its best, and it all comes naturally. And when you watch the campaigns, you'll enjoy it because you see the natural fit. So I think it's a great campaign.
I actually have a great deal of appreciation for Abercrombie and Fitch. They've had a really smooth, I guess, landing in how they've redefined how they should be seen by the masses. And so, with that appreciation in mind, I actually have a projection on and this is gonna be my brand to watch, but I have a projection that someone else is gonna do a similar thing as what Abercrombie did. So and what I mean by that is saying going for a select few to pro inclusive and for a completely different customer base and a different strategy. So I'm gonna show you guys the logo. I'm gonna Roth Furrow this. So tell me what you guys think. Okay, who do you think this is?
It's Harley Davidson.
Harley.
Isn't that amazing? Just simple lines. You guys knew that it was Harley Davidson. Okay, so Harley Davidson is my brand to watch. I think with this rebrand, they haven't announced anything, but I have a gut feeling based off of some of the things that they are doing, some of the photography they have released, some of the collaborations they have done. They are trying to shift away from that outlaw. I think they're trying to get away from that image, and they're trying to redefine what it means to be to own a Harley in 2023 and beyond. Look, Gen Z is clearly the largest consumer class now. Those are just the numbers, and it's smart business sense to try to target them. But Gen Z is not going to be riding around in posses on the highway, right? They're not going to be wearing leather jackets and tattooing Harley Davidson on their bodies and stuff. That's just not the look for them or not the appeal. So for Harley Davidson to get away from that 100+ year image, they have to do something drastic. And going to simple lines will still pay homage to their tradition, right? But I think they are also going to start opening up to other views of what it means to own a Harley. So again, they're going to shift from for a select few to maybe, my guess is, for the people who want quality, right? And who value history and the engineering that has gone into to building Harleys. I also think that they're going to do some drastic things. And I feel this way because they have partnered with Post Malone on an apparel line. Post Malone is loved by Gen Z. I mean, that dude is like that's their guy, and he's the most intimidating dude from the looks of it, but he's really a teddy bear, and I think that's Gen Z in a nutshell. I also think that Harley Davidson will probably be the first motorcycle to partner with Tesla. I truly, truly think that, with everything we're seeing Tesla integrating with Ford and Rivian, Harley is probably going to be the first motorcycle to do it. They already have a electric page on their website, but I think they're going to have a pretty big announcement with Tesla. It's just my gut feeling. But that's my brand to watch.
I love that. I love that you've chosen Harley Davidson as a brand to watch. I think I'd be really excited to see what they could do with that brand and how they get into that kind of more into quality and broaden their scope. I'm also interested to see how they can do it while holding on to their core audience as they grow after their growth audience. I think you see brands sort of end up having to abandon their core, especially with promises and shifts like these, that you do run that risk. And I think the question for them to ask is that risk worth taking? And I think the longer we wait, I think the more of that answer is going to be yes. Because I think we're all kind of waiting for Harley Davidson to shift their position and their brand persona to be something more meaningful and inclusive. Because I think all of us have an image of what Harley Davidson used to represent. And I don't think I quite know what they represent today. It's sort of lost on me. And I'd be really excited to see what they end up becoming.
This may sound like an ageism joke, but I got to say it. They're not riding around in motorcycles anymore, man. That customer base is gone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was gonna say something very similar to that. I was like, I can't imagine any of us right now driving around in a Harley, and friends around me don't ask for Harleys, right? So I think it's definitely they've got to do something to shake up that market and get a new attraction to markets. Those are the I think it's got to be something a little bit dramatic and something to make a splash. So let's see. I'm excited to see what they do. All right. So we usually talk about brands to watch in the rise, and Samir and Adeel have done both today and in the past. But I'm going to talk a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about a brand that's I think is on the fall. And it's none other than Disney. Disney's on their low spectrum. They're on their stock is at their all-time low in the last 5 years. They're talking about selling their assets. The parks are the lowest attendance. I think this summer, which is 4th of July weekend, they said they had the lowest attendance they've had in a very long time. The last two releases, Elemental, Indiana Jones, both bombed at the box office. 27 million for Elemental, and Indiana Jones did like 126 million. I mean, these guys are just burning money. I think they lost $2 billion last year, and now they're pulling off content to make it more profitable. I think this brand needs help. They've they've gone through some challenges. They've gone through some competitive challenges. They've gone through some woke challenges. Bob Iger coming back hasn't done much for them yet, and he is the man of M&As, right? I've read his book in the past, and this guy is a big financial business guy. But I mean, they are on their downfall, and I don't know. I think they might be ready to do an acquisition or getting acquired. But the question becomes: Is Bob Iger going to let it sell on the downfall? Like, are they going to let him sell low? And if so, who's up for acquisition? Is it Apple? Is it Netflix? Is it Comcast? I mean, who's going to buy the company for their IP? What do you guys think?
Man, I don't think Disney's going anywhere because they own so much IP. They have way too much infrastructure in the American fabric for them to just tank. I think a lot of this is driven by some of the recent data of like, hey, your park attendance is low. They've been getting heat from from the Florida government as well, and so a lot of that is just like Disney's kind of cornered in many senses right now. But dude, like Mark Zuckerberg was cornered a few months ago, and now that seems like distant news. I think Bob Iger just needs to start doing some MMA, get a 6-pack. All right, this dude needs to like to fall into the graces of the American people. I think he will be just fine. They do need to make some smart decisions. I think traditional sports media has changed. I don't watch ESPN at all anymore. I literally, like, all my highlights I get from the House of Highlights or different Instagram channels. I think they will have to get a little creative on how they do. And he talked about that in his interviews, like how he maybe selling off ESPN is something he needs to consider. But he also did say that, hey, we have to be a lot smarter with our content that we do, right? That we have to just be more intentional with the type of content we do put out. He also felt that they oversaturated the Star Wars name. Like you have such a beautiful brand, don't oversaturate it, and that probably also costs hundreds of millions of dollars in production that you didn't need to do, right? And it just like it messed up. Didn't mess up, but it's like it was not needed, right? And I think this Barbie launch is going to be really telling to Bob Iger as well, that some of these strategies of like, what do the American people actually want? And so, like, I'm not saying where the money is. That's not my take at all. But I think he needs to put all considerations on the table now if he wants to salvage the business. I don't think Bob Iger is going to sell at a low. This is just a little blip, I think, in his. I think it'll come back up.
It's not financial advice from the Mad Men pod, so keep that in mind.
I remember when we were talking about Disney being one of the major powerhouses that'll eventually own everything that we ever see and touch and feel, right? Like I feel like we always kind of symbolized Disney because of how much they own, the amount of things that they do, from content to media to IP. I think we always kind of felt like they were eventually going to take over the world, and it's a really great take to see how this fall is really going to end up. I think my perspective on it, I think there's going to be some need to simplify a bit. I feel like they've kind of gotten their hands into a lot of different things, and I think they're learning which spaces they should be doubling down on. I've always appreciated the overall kind of vision of the Walt Disney Company, and it being about in the business of making magic, right? About magical experiences. Where did that go? I feel like there was something really powerful that kind of unified all of the different things that Disney was doing, from content, movies, experiences, theme parks. I think that magical notion I thought was really powerful. And I think it's just starting to play into way too many different things that have deviated so far from that one unifying mission that brought everything together. So I'm curious to see some of the simplification that might come from this. I do think it's kind of cutting its losses and maybe some merging some properties together to try to be a little bit more innovative again. I think Disney's getting a lot of hit as well on not being interesting and innovative in storytelling in their new movies, right? I think there's a lot of creative knocks that they're getting. So I'd be curious to see like how they're going to try to revamp their creativity across all of the different places that they play. But I think simplification is going to be a good move for them. And, kind of getting back into what made Disney so magical again.
I cannot agree more here. Like this, Disney is no longer accessible to the average American family. I mean, we just got to face it. Like, it is so expensive for an average family to visit Disney, and you're asking people to put tens of thousands of dollars on a trip to go wait in line, and maybe you'll get to do 2 or 3 rides a day. And then on top of that, you're going to be upsold so many more things, from character interactions and this and that. Legit, like we were saying, should we go to Disney or should we go to Europe? That was our comparison. Why would we pick Disney at that point? I think if they really want to get their attendance back up, they need to say, hey, we are the park for America. And we're going to fix that by simplifying our pricing. We're going to make it accessible for normal families to visit. I mean, the fact that local people in Orlando cannot afford to visit Disney, that should say something. Like, what are they trying to achieve, right? So if they want to be this big media company, they need to be accessible. You're not HBO. You need to be that magical inspiration for all American families, and they're not doing that. And that's going to be something that they need to address for sure.
There's a theme park that is American based coming. Like somebody's developing a theme park that is fully about the American spirit. I forgot the name of it, but we'll have to look it up. But just real quick on the IP, right? I think Disney's focused on IP, right? Delivering IP, owning the IPs, either it be Star Wars, Marvel, Mickey, whatever it may be. But all that's been oversaturated, right? If you look at it, they haven't had a new IP to hit big since Frozen, I think. So I think they've oversaturated their IP as well. So the values from the IP that they're getting is out too, right? You could look at, I mean, you could talk about Barbie. We talk about Barbie again, right? It's just a brand. H&M has it, Uniqlo has it. I was at like Trimark the other day in London, and they had it collab with Barbie. So I think they've got some work to do here.
You said there's an American theme park coming?
Yeah, it's an American
theme park. Okay, like I would love to see what that's gonna be like. The equivalent for the Walking Dead one would be like San Francisco. God, I love San Francisco. I should not say that, but like I would love to see the different themes that they have at this theme park. So guys, before we end the pod, I gotta do a shameless plug. We're obviously not doing this pod to sell you guys anything, right? We don't care about that. We truly enjoy talking about this stuff, and we truly enjoy sharing all of the weird ways we think about campaigns with you all. So whether you know us personally or not, I have a request. Okay, so take out your hand, and we'll do a virtual handshake. And we need to make this handshake agreement. We need you to help us get the word out. Subscribe to our channels. Very simple. Go to Spotify, just hit the subscribe button. Go to our Apple podcast, look up our page, hit subscribe. And then if you can go to our YouTube too, go to the channel and hit subscribe. All of these things really do help us out. It does boost us in the rankings, but more than anything, it helps our morale to keep us going. We truly love doing this. And, the numbers do matter to us. We are marketers at the end of the day. And so we do like to see those trending in the right direction. we've seen a lot of growth already, but we could always use your help.
It's Sunday night.
Oh.
Tomorrow, Twitter's logo changes to X. Are we not going to talk about it?
Is that tomorrow? I thought we had another week to talk about it.
I thought it's tomorrow. Is it not?
Oh my gosh. Yes, we should talk about it. It's Samir called this. Is it tomorrow? I gotta look this up.
And on Sunday, the app would renounce its bird logo, which would be switched to an X later in the day. Would happen Monday. Yeah, it's gonna happen tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, if we talk about this next week, then we're gonna be old news. We gotta talk about it right now. You're like, dang, these guys were early. They talked about it first. Screw the All In podcast, guys. We're gonna start the Mad Men pod. You had said on your take about the threads versus Twitter. You said that, hey, Elon is building X. Did you know that? Like, I didn't even know that this was the angle, and now this is all making sense. Tell us what intel do you have?
I mean, did you think Elon was just gonna sit there and take the punches? Like, if anything, this was always gonna be happening. He probably just moved up the date because we need to make Twitter feel new and interesting again, and not just feel like that Threads is just gonna do everything that we do. I mean, I think it was coming. I feel like people who have kept up with understanding what Elon's vision for Twitter and why he purchased them in the first place, I feel like it was there. I swear, no insider knowledge. Don't know anybody working at Twitter or soon to be called X anyway. But I think this was it's a fun thing that's happening. Honestly, I'm excited. I don't think I've seen anything about the app itself changing yet, but this is step one, and I think we're gonna start seeing what X ends up becoming and how they're gonna be even differentiated from Threads now.
What does it do for the brand equity? Like getting rid of the bird, getting rid of the blue. Like he already talked about. Like I think there was a Twitter poll about making it dark. So I think that was a thing. The I don't know, the logo. I think it was like crowdsourced. I don't think somebody actually built this logo. I think you crowdsourced all this stuff. Like this is free data for.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's from Fiverr.
But yeah, he's got to like, if he. I think what's going to happen here, there's two ways it works, right? One is that, yes, he launches it, but he launches it with some new functionality, and this is going to go hit viral, right? So both Threads out of the park. It'll throw every meta software off the walls. But if he doesn't do it, and he does it only for aesthetics, just to shake shit up like he always does, this is going to dud real fast. And I think it's going to set him up for failure later, right? If he's not one to compete. Like not because somebody did Threads first, he's going to go, it's not Elon's way. Because when he does something, he does it thoroughly thought out. So this would be unbrand-like for him. By the way, he's got marketing is not like, Tesla has no marketing budget. SpaceX has no marketing budget. This guy is very much on his own, right? So I think it could go two ways depending on what happens tomorrow. Is there a new app update? Is there, everything changes? Or is this just some, Dogecoin shit going to the moon bullshit that he came up with today?
I just looked up how many users are on Twitter. 450 million. Maybe half of those are real, right? Because the number of bots on Twitter is insane. But let's just say like 300 million are real humans, right? Let's rewind a couple years back when he started building up his base on Twitter and stuff, and he's like probably thinking from a perspective of, if I wanted to build a platform where I had 300 plus million users, how long would it take? How much would it cost me? One thing that Samir had said in our debate about Threads versus Twitter is that it's going to become a super app. I think we're going to suddenly start to see things fall in together where we're going to start seeing ride sharing with autonomous Teslas be plugged in. We're going to start seeing, transfers of Dogecoin. You just joked about it, but we're going to start seeing a seamless platform to transfer money back and forth. I think there's something else in the works, and he bought Twitter for the users and to be able to test different things rather than trying to build a perfect app and say, hey, come, right? He can slowly phase in things with a user base that already likes him, right? And so fixing Twitter is probably not his concern. half of Americans don't read tweets. I truly believe that. But you know, his thing is, how do I build value for the users on this app, and more people will come, and we will just be shocked how all the pieces will just suddenly fall together, and then Twitter users will have special rates for Skylink. You know, if you are Twitter verified, you get $5 off. Like, there's gonna be different things that just get plugged in. We're just gonna be like, man, I was a pawn for Elon this whole time. Right. So we just do not realize what he's working on. And I may be fangirling here, but I think, you know, he's our real life Iron Man. Seriously.
I call him more of a real life Einstein, but I'll take Iron Man too. Just to close it off, I saw this tweet right now. It's funny shit. You know Marcus Brownlee, MKBHD?
Yeah.
So he tweets, I'm still going to call it Twitter. Elon responds to him, was like, not for long.
Yeah, who knows what the rest of the rebranding is going to end up becoming. I mean, it's a distraction away from the financial shambles that is Twitter. If you call it something else, does it feel like the problems aren't there anymore? I don't know. I don't know what exactly it's supposed to feel like, but I think you make a good point that this is just kind of if you're thinking of this as like the learning curve of what the X app could become, make it easy and doing it in bite-sized pieces versus unveiling a whole new app, then going through a whole new acquisition play, and then trying to educate everybody of what the app can do. Like, let's start small. Let's start with the logo. Maybe call it something different. And then tomorrow we can add in a new thing. And then the day after, something else will look different. I think it's a smart way of trying to get people to understand what this super app is supposed to be, because I think most people also can't really get their heads wrapped around it. I don't even think Elon can get his head wrapped around it. But what he knows is his vision, and I think he's going to take every little step to get there.
And love that we included that this week. You heard it first, guys. You heard it first on the Mad Men Pod.
Or episode doesn't drop till Thursday.
No, I'm going to make it happen tonight. I'm up. Where's my coffee? Here you go.
Bro, don't do it.
He's gone mad.
All right.
Mad Men.
Peace.
Maybe just a TikTok.
Mad Men.